Hello, biology class. This is Mr. Worley. Now it's time to do some learning for Chapter 8, Section 2, Photosynthesis, an overview. Our objectives are to explain the experiments of Van Helmont, Priestley, and Ingenhousz, and tell what they explain about the plants and how they grow. Also, our goal is to state the overall equation of photosynthesis, and to describe the role of light and chlorophyll in photosynthesis. Our lecture exercises include section review questions numbers 1 through 5 on page 207. Make sure that you have your book out, and make sure you have a piece of paper to write notes on. And without further ado, let's start reading. Oh, before we do, let's make a note that we have the word photosynthesis, pigment, and chlorophyll in our vocabulary. Here we go. The key cellular process identified with energy production is photosynthesis. In the process of photosynthesis, vocab word, plants use energy of sunlight to convert water and carbon dioxide into high-energy carbohydrates, sugars and starches, and oxygen, a waste product. The investigations of many scientists have contributed to the current understanding of the process of photosynthesis. Investigating photosynthesis. So in your notes, you might, after putting the title and the heading, you might just start by writing investigating. Research into photosynthesis began centuries ago with a simple question. When a tiny seedling grows into a tall tree with a mass of several tons, where does the tree increase its mass come from? From the soil? From the water? From the air? Van Helmont's experiment. So in your notes, you might want to write something like investigating Van Helmont. Okay, I'm going to change pens to something a little bit easier to write with. Van Helmont. Here we go. In the 1600s, the Belgian physician Jan van Helmont devised an experiment to find out if plants grew by taking material out of the soil. Van Helmont determined the mass of a pot of dry soil and a small seedling. Then, he planted the seedling in the pot of soil. He watered it regularly. At the end of 5 years, the seedling, which by then had grown into a small tree, gained about 75 kilograms. All right. So Van Helmont, we're still going to write something about him, but let's go to the next page, page 205. So, the mass of the soil, however, was almost unchanged. He concluded that most of the gain in mass had come from water, because that was the only thing that he had added. Van Helmont's experiments accounts for the hydrate, or water portion of carbohydrate, produced by photosynthesis. All right? So do you see they're explaining the word carbohydrate to us? The first part is hydrate, which is water. All right? But where does the carbon of the carbo portion come from? Although Van Helmont did not realize it, carbon dioxide in the air made a major contribution to the mass of the tree. Carbon dioxide is used to make sugars and other carbohydrates in photosynthesis. Van Helmont had only part of the story, but he had made a major contribution to science. What was his contribution? His contribution was that the mass of tree/plant growth is part H2O. He basically found out that, hey, the soil doesn't go away, so it must be the water that I'm putting into the soil. Priestley's experiment. More than 100 years after Van Helmont's experiment, 100 years! Guys, the truths we're learning in science class have been worked hard for all over the centuries by people. Helmont's experiment, English minister Joseph Priestley performed an experiment that would give another insight into the process of photosynthesis. Priestley took a candle, placed a glass jar over it, and watched as the flames gradually died out. Something in the air, Priestley reasoned, was necessary to keep a candle flame burning. When this substance was used up, the candle went out. The substance was oxygen. Priestley then found out that if he placed a live sprig of mint, just a second, a live sprig of mint under the jar and allowed a few days to pass, the candle could be relit and would remain lit for a while. The mint plant had produced the substance required for burning. In other words, it released oxygen. Right? So Priestley's experiment. Checkpoint. What did Priestley discover about photosynthesis? Well, Priestley discovered that plants produce oxygen. All right, please move on to the next section.